Good day, everyone. I'm Rain of Tears. Thank you for stopping through. Now, this is sort of a not my forte, definitely not my forte, and something that I normally do not do. For people that are aware of some of my work, I primarily focus on making video productions and photo slide video productions of various topic matters, in particular science fiction, drama, horror, some topical interests related to social events, etc. So doing a movie review, definitely, I am definitely not an expert in this area. I do appreciate films. My primary interests sort of fall in the same line in terms of the type of productions that I make. I like drama. I like science fiction, in particular post-apocalyptic fiction, uh, and horror, where I like zombie productions and good vampire productions. But being of all that being said, I saw an interesting movie yesterday, that being as of April the 3rd, 2026. I know they say you're not supposed to date productions, but at any rate, the drama with Zendaya and Robert Patterson. Uh, I thought it was a very interesting and nuanced film, and it got me thinking about several aspects about it. It was a very well acted production and well filmed production. I mean, both Zendaya and Robert Patterson were excellent in their roles. Uh, it sort of delved into things, subject matters, and relationships that aren't usually touched upon in film. I'll go with my pros and cons. As I said, the pros, obviously, as I just indicated, was the production values and the acting quality. Um, Excuse me, my camera just slid. I apologize. Uh, Now, one thing that I thought about though is like the subject matter, and I'm not going to give away, plot spoilers, but the subject matter of the one of the protagonists, Zendaya, supposedly had a background, a troubled background, where she had inclinations and thoughts of engaging in behaviors that are not normally associated with foundational Black Americans. Once you see the film or you read about it, you'll know exactly what I'm referencing or whatever. But like I said, I'm trying to avoid giving out any spoilers to mar the enjoyment of people that want to go view the film themselves. But at any rate, if that's the first thing that came to mind. It's like, okay, it's a very interesting that they would profile such a person that had maybe this type of mentality because of what had happened to their past, being bullied, being persecuted, and having low self-esteem that would lead them to have thoughts to perhaps ponder doing something so heinous, but not acting upon that, but still being affected by just the fact that they perceive of doing something like this, how it negatively impacted the opinions of others against them when they become a young adult. But normally, like I said, this is something that that is very rarely done in real life in by people that are of foundational Black American descent. Now, obviously, I'm aware that Zendaya is what they say biracial. Is the terminology that's utilized. However, I don't want to get into my own. Well, I'll say my own personal belief is that in 90% of the cases, anyone that's quote unquote biracial, of a mixed parentage background, where one parent is foundational Black American or Black from the diaspora, whether it be Africa, the Caribbean, or whatever, and a parent that's Caucasian or of any other non-Black, non-African descended background, the characteristics and the features and the complexion, overall, 99% of the cases, they would be clearly identified as someone as African American, not definitely not Caucasian, not East Indian, the Dougal. Anyway, that's enough of that. But that's just my opinion there. But anyway, the bottom line is that the issue that's associated with Zendaya's character is not something that's normally in real life. Very rarely is a foundational Black American, a person of Black descent in the United States, associated with these types of thoughts nor actions. Okay, that's one thing. I would think that an actress who I highly respect, um, Florence Pugh, would have been excellent for this role, actually. I mean, even though Zendaya did, as I said, she did an excellent job, in this film production. But in terms of realistically, in terms of like, again, the nature of the issue at hand, in terms of this type of volatile thought pattern, in terms of issues that have been associated with this in the United States, it's not someone that would be foundational Black American or Black descendant. And again, in my opinion, Florence Pugh could have done an excellent job in that role, in the love interest of Robert Pattinson. Now, Robert Pattinson, he also did an excellent job, as a sort of torn, once he found out these troubled thoughts in the past and potential actions that his potential fiance, played by Zendaya, was going to potentially perpetrate it, but then ultimately changed their mind. So that's one thing that got me to thinking. I do also appreciate, this is a sort of a minor thing in the film, but like, I do like how, and again, being very vague to prevent spoilers, when there's a scene, at the wedding dinner, that where all the family and friends gather, that usual ceremonial thing, where the character, Zendaya's father, who was played by a clearly African American man, she was obviously, even in the character, was biracial. Her mom was white, and the black actor that I'm referencing that acted as her father. That was a very realistic scene too, in terms of like he acted. He was clearly. I mean, I liked it. He was just, in my opinion, just the average, an average African American man that could have been a father in real life. Well, he probably is, but nothing that's like like a film unrealistic. Not a quote unquote super Negro, not super light complexion. Just a regular, in my opinion, average. Good, God fearing, strong, loving African American father, and the relationship. Even though it wasn't superficially shown and not really gone into that deep aspect, seemed like it had the parents, her white actress portraying mother, and again the Black African American or foundational Black American father, they seemed to have a good rapport. Some of the other aspects were unrealistic in terms of the judgmental aspect, and again, once you see the film, you'll be able to judge for yourself whether you agree or disagree. All of us, none of us are perfect or whatever. Now, granted, I'll only speak for myself. I've never had any types of thoughts in my past of doing any type of harm to anyone or whatever of that nature. But I guess the question is that, for people that may have thought of doing things that were despicable, thought about it but did not act upon them, and, their lifestyle since then has been such that it's quite different. Is that something that should still be held against them, even now? I mean, that'd be a question to ponder. You could think about that if you choose to see the film. So overall, again, like, this is very impromptu. And again, I'll preface by saying I'm no expert, obviously, film expert or whatever. But the film was so good and so thought-provoking, it provoked me to make this video podcast. So hope that you enjoy it and think about it, and then you can go see the film if you choose to do so, and formulate your own opinion. So thank you for taking your time for stopping by. I hope you have a wonderful year this year, and peace and blessings to all. Take care.